Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Tonight is June the 8th. Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams, and I hope all the Brits who are listening in have cast your vote, which is a complete and utter waste of time, as everybody knows by now, but some people still like to play the habit. And what do we have this week? Well, let's get through all the emails and all that stuff first. We do have some intel this week, and some op-ed pieces, not as extensive as previous weeks. I just think this week has been bizarre in the extreme. Anyway, the email for the show is truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail.com, and the link for the show is Spreaker.com user/8955881. All the archives are on there for all the shows. I know some people who have only recently caught onto the show have gone through all the archives. Brave person, but people who do that will see the flow of this show, of how it's gone. It's been done in stages. Anyway, we have an articles website called thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org, and Facebook social media alternative. It's like Facebook, but it's not, without all the issues that surround Facebook, and that's on MeWe.com. The People's Club donations website link is thepeoplesclub.org, and I think that's about it. Yes, it is. Right, where do we start? Like I said, this past week has been pure madness. Behind the scenes also, you'll hear more of that later, but also in our realm, so to speak, the drama continues, the distraction continues, and pretty much it's gone into overflow now, and you're going to need all your wits about you and your sanity in check now more than ever, because everything is going faster. I don't know whether people notice that. It's the drama, it just spins far and wide, both in the alternative media and the mainstream. The lies get deeper and the stage show more lavish and corruptible by the hour. And take the ongoing distractions currently, UK election being one of them, or C-election. And then of course we've got the Comey stuff here. Now I could spend 10-15 minutes talking about that, but I've no doubt many of you have already listened to it and can form your own opinions about which way that goes, or whether it's favourable for Trump or whether it's not favourable for Trump. But what Comey's saying is just basically he said, she said. And to me, is it more important than improving people's lives? No, it's not. It's not changing anything drastically. We all know, or we should all know by now, that all politicians are one way or another corrupt. All of them. It's how they get there. We mustn't lose sight of that fact. Is Trump clean? Absolutely not. Can he fix things? Yes, providing the platform is provided to do so. Will it be more faction fighting, fixing things? I think people are now starting to see the faction games that's playing out, and that includes Trump. Make no mistake about it. There's not a single politician currently operating on behalf of we the people, for and by the people. Will he improve things that will make things better? I would suggest yes. But whether Trump said this or whether Trump said that in relation to Comey, again, I ask, is it as important as improving people's lives? Because clearly it's not. Whilst they spend most of their days arguing whether he said this or he said that, meanwhile we're all suffering. Now there's perspective on suffering. Are American lives better than they were 5 years ago? No. 10 years ago? No. We've been in a depression for the last 9, 10 years, and yet people keep telling us that things are improving. Not for we the people, it's not. So whilst all these hearings and testimonies may be important to some people, to me it's not. Because what's more important is improving people's lives. And yes, we have to, as Mr. Trump called it, drain the swamp. But I don't think anyone as yet has seen full evidence of the real swamp. We don't want the little eddy pool version. We want the full version. And that includes the big names. Not let's throw people under the bus names. We want the big names taken out and removed and put before juries, like Clintons or whoever's representing that entity currently. Bushes, Cheneys, Rumsfelds. You could go on and on. Wolfowitz, Pearl. Those names may not be familiar to some people, but those clowns and their American PAC document is basically what we've got now. McCain's. Have you ever noticed every time John McCain goes to the Middle East, there's violence that follows it? What does he do? Why isn't he being brought to justice? So currently, sadly, we live in a world of utter madness. Alternative media is not really helping at this point, where certain individuals seem to think they can turn the alternative media into some Disney theme park, complete with comic books, CDs and all the other bullshit that goes with it. This is serious business and affects people's lives every single second of the day. It's not there to be Disneyized. We've got clowns coming on alternative media spouting rubbish about RVs for about the 1010th time. Yes, it failed again. It failed last week also. I'm bored of repeating it. They're trying again at the weekend. It'll fail again. And so we just carry on with this circle of madness. Sadly, for me anyway, the alternative media at the moment is not helping. Yes, certain things or certain people need to be exposed, but those people were exposed 2 years ago. Quite no one why nobody took it up is beyond this person. And now we've got known rogues jumping in on other rogues. Again, it's like the factions in fighting, isn't it? Micro to macro. So hopefully over the next coming weeks we may see a clearer path, but the cabal are ramping up as they get more and more desperate by the day. You'll see that in the intel, and we need cool, clear and calm heads at this time. We need to see more of it, particularly in the alternative media. Right, let's get into some news, and then we'll cover a few things. So, given the UK election is ongoing, or C-election, it looks like the Conservatives will win, which is what they expected, except they're not going to have a majority vote, which is the whole reason why they called for this extra election. Bear in mind that the next election in the UK was 2020. Now, 30 to 40 of the Conservative politicians are being done for fraud and will be removed from their seats in due course. Now, that would have left the Conservatives with a reduced or a non-majority vote. So they thought, we'll call another election now and get new people in and move them people out. Except it looks like it's going to go wrong, which is why we had the fun and games in London last week. So based on the polls and the predictions, the Conservatives will win 314 seats and Labour around 266. And 34 for the Scottish National Party and 14 for the Liberal Democrats. And this will not be enough, and will actually be a disaster for Theresa May and the Conservatives, because the danger is they'll lose even more a majority than he would have had it had he not called it. We always like it when the things go wrong for them, and it appears it is. We'll see. Now, the One World Trade Center this week and other certain iconic buildings was illuminated with green light last Thursday and Friday in response to President Donald Trump's decision to exit the Paris Climate Agreement. The US is the second leading emitter of, allegedly, of greenhouse gas emissions behind China, and the Paris Climate Agreement requires every country to establish targets to reduce greenhouse gases that cause global warming, according to them. Now, only 2 countries didn't sign it, which is Nicaragua and Syria. But in New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo tweeted a photo of the One World Trade Center and Kozowitz-Zitsko Bridge, never pronounced that correctly, never even heard of it, was illuminated in green light with the saying, "The world, the Empire State stands with you. New York shines green for our planet, our health and our children's future," Mr. Cuomo said in a tweet. Mr. Cuomo should pipe down, because that to me is, well, put it this way, if we did that, we have an opposing view of the president. We're classed as terrorists, and yet Mr. Cuomo seems to think he can light up New York in favour of the globalists. One would think that the New York people should do something about Mr. Cuomo and remove him from office. Australia. Some of you will have heard about this, but it may be a sign of the times or a warning of what's to come. Time will tell. So an Australian asset manager of Altair Asset Management made the extraordinary decision this week to liquidate its Australian shares, funds and return to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars to its clients, citing an impending property market calamity and the overvalued and dangerous time in this cycle. Giving up management and performance fees and handing back cash from investments managed by us is a seminal decision, he said. However, preserving clients' assets is what all fund managers should put before their own interests. Yes, indeed. Very few do. Philip Parker, who serves as Altair's chairman and chief investment officer, said the 30-year who's been a veteran of investing for the last 30 years, said on May the 15th he advised Altair clients that he planned to sell all the underlying shares in the Altair unit trusts and to then hand back the cash to those same managed fund investors. He also said he disbanded the team for time being, including his investment committee comprising of several prominent bears, such as the former Morgan Stanley chief economist and noted bear Gerard Minack and the former UBS economist Stephen Roberts. Well, kudos to them, because they're reacting to what's going on, all the chatter behind the scenes about impending crashes, and it's time that the people who made those investments didn't suffer. You're going to hear more about certain investments on a massive scale in the Intel. So the Democrats are now getting touchy with the entity known as Hillary Clinton, and they wish for her to take a cue from President Obama and step out of the spotlight. I wonder if that's double meaning. Maybe the entity representing Hillary Clinton is failing. Oops. But they say her string of remarks explaining her stunning loss in November, where she lost a one-horse race, coupled with the public remarks blaming the Democratic National Committee for the defeat, which many took as also being critical of President Obama, are hurting the party and making the 2016 candidate look bitter. Or plastic. Anyway. The Hill, who wrote this piece, interviewed more than a dozen Democrats to discuss Clinton's remarks, including many staunch Clinton supporters and former aides. They said they understood the need for Clinton to explain what happened in the election, and many also empathised with Clinton's anger over former FBI Director James Comey handling of a probe into her private email server. Well, consequences of actions, Mrs. Clinton. If you weren't rogue to begin with, people wouldn't have been delving into your private email. If you were clean, there would be no need to do that. You can't keep blaming everybody else. And you can't take everybody else out who speaks out either. Oops. So the Democrats appear to be throwing Hillary under the bus. Wait till they find out about Obama. I think that, as Drake calls him, that boy is facing some tough times ahead, he thinks. I was going to cover the story, but I'm best not doing that at the moment. Where are we next? President Trump's charity foundation came under question. Whether this is correct or not, it remains to be seen, but I'm putting it out anyway. And It could be another of the he said, she said distraction. But if it's proven to be correct, it doesn't augur too well. There's already been issues with his family members, and if Trump is to go forward and clean the swamp, he also has to clean his own house up also, big time. Mr. Kushner won't be lasting long, trust me on that. So the charity foundation allegedly funneled $100,000 in donations, which was meant for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and it went into revenue for the Trump organisation by using his son's charity. For 10 years, Eric Trump hosted an annual golf tournament which raised millions of dollars in donations for the hospital. 100,000 of the donations was funneled through the Eric Trump Foundation back into Trump's golf courses for expenses incurred during the tournaments. And this was in spite that donors were told that all the money they donated would be used for charity. In addition, more than $500,000 of donors' money over 10 years was redonated to other charities, including some that were connected to Trump family members. At least 4 of these organisations also used Trump golf courses for charity tournaments, and Mr. Trump himself gave the order for the Trump organisation to begin billing the Eric Trump Foundation for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, if this report is true, and I'm unsure either way, I'm not going to guide it one way or guide it the other, because there's a lot of things just being thrown out now, and it's like throwing shit to the wall and hoping some of it sticks. Some of it will be true, a lot of it won't, and this is the way it's going to be now for the next few months, I would think, until things get a lot clearer. But if this report is true, the practices undertaken would violate both New York state law and also federal law on self-dealing and misleading donors, leading to more testimonies and courtrooms and more he said, she said. Attorney General Jeff Sessions has been suggested that he might resign soon amid rising tensions with President Trump. The writ stems from Sessions' decision in March to recuse himself from the probe of possible ties between Trump's 2016 campaign and Russia, a decision Trump was unaware of until minutes before it occurred. Sessions, one of Trump's earliest backers on the campaign, it has been suggested that he even floated his resignation at one point, which was refused, and he also recused himself from any federal probes into Russian election meddling following reports he did not reveal past meetings with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak during the 2016 election. You know, this Russian thing is again a sign of the madness, because all these people that are mentioning he or she is talking to Russia, they all are. Each and every one of them, whether it be Trump or the lower ambassadors. And let's not forget, Clinton did deals with the Russians for our in-ground resources when she thought she was winning her one-horse race that she lost. So, before people start getting het up about Russia this and Russia that, go into the overview. But the point is, when you find out, each and every one of them speaking to Russia. They always have. Oh, we're in a Cold War. Really? Someone turn the fridge on? Then we're not. Then we have to create another boogeyman because we're out of the Cold War and we can't buy any more weapons for the alleged Cold War. Let's create other boogeymen. So practically each and every politician has spoken to Russian counterparts, whether people like that or not. And why one is more important not to speak than the other is beyond me. Again, it's the world of illusion. A Breitbart. They have the connections to Stratford, same as Alex Jones. Do your own research on that. The editor has been sacked this week after posting anti-Muslim tweets following the London terror attack. You heard right. The editor, Katie McHugh, who previously worked at the Daily Caller, said in a tweet on Monday that Breitbart News fired me for telling the truth about Islam and Muslim immigration. McHugh was criticised for a tweet on Saturday in which she wrote, "There would be no deadlier terror attacks in the UK if Muslims didn't live there." For someone who's an editor of a journalistic group, her narrow mind is rather telling, I have to say. So basically, if there was no Muslims in the UK, there would be no attacks. Apart from the names, which they always put out, Abdul or Muhammad. Have we seen any Muslims produce that, did he? Or are we just accepting their narrative again? But that's this is I know it upsets some people, as they're worried about Sharia law and this and that, and Obama putting Muslim people in charge. It's the system that created it that you need to get at. Blaming Muslims is the sleight of hand trick. It always was. We did the faction show, it's nearly 2 years ago now. It explained where everyone fits in. It also explained about World War III, the clash of the civilizations, Muslims versus Christians, prophesized, i.e. planned, in 1888. And of course the internet is awash with it. Some of the alleged militia who are badly infiltrated, that I do know, are pushing the Muslim narrative. Oh, they've got all these camps all over America. Well, if you're militia, why haven't you gone and removed them then? Why are you waiting for military? But you do know that military can't interact on our soil. I know some people won't believe that, but it's actually true. They're not allowed to interact on our soil. Part of their constitution, not ours. So it's up to the militia. If you think there's Muslim camps inside our country, why haven't you gone there and removed them? but it's all part of the fear program again. The problem is not the Muslims, although, to be quite honest, if I was, or if anyone listening to this show, if you were a Muslim or Islam or whatever other religion in the Middle East there is, and your country's bombed into oblivion, wouldn't you become a terrorist? Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa, New York was bombed into oblivion by, let's just say, Syria. The outcry would be enormous. And yet we're supposed to just accept that these people just have to put up with that. That this country, not its people, the clowns in charge, just bomb them into oblivion so they can put pipelines for their oil. And they're just supposed to accept that. They're thrown out of the country and funneled into a foreign country, i.e. Europe, and that's just supposed to accept that. It's not right. The problem always has been, which is the elephant in the room, is the policy makers, not the people. And clowns like this Katie McHugh making statements like that, there would be no deadlier terror attacks in the UK if Muslims didn't live there. Perhaps there wouldn't be any terror attacks at all if America, Britain and a few others didn't bomb the Middle East into oblivion. It's always the problem of the policy makers. Don't fall for the sleight of hand. If we've got Sharia law in parts of America now, it's because the policy makers put it there to cause division. Don't blame the Muslims. Cost of medical care. This is more important than Comey, what he said or didn't say. So the cost of medical care in the so-called richest country in the world. For those of you in England, you'll be shocked at this. Even for those who have health insurance, is keeping some families from seeking treatment because it's too expensive. In other words, keep you sick so you go and buy their drugs. The vicious cycle. 25% of adults in a recent poll said that they or a family member had avoided seeking medical attention because of the cost. In 2016, the average annual premium for an employee-sponsored health insurance was $6,800 for single coverage in a preferred provider organisation, PPO. However, the annual premium for a high deductible plan available at work was $5,762. Under a high deductible plan, employees can use a tax-advantaged health savings account called a HSA to cover qualified medical costs. These plans must have an annual deductible of at least $1,300, roughly £1,000, for self-only coverage, or $2,600 for families. Out-of-pocket expenses each year may not exceed $6,550 for individuals and $13,100 for families. Here's the kicker. The 2017 HSA, which is the Health Savings Plan, got it right, yeah, Health Savings Account, holders with self-only coverage can contribute up to $3,400 annually, while those with family coverage can save up to $6,750. Like I said, here's the kicker. Assets in the HSA accounts have now surpassed $53 billion. Nice little savings account, that, isn't it? So they're sitting there with 53 billion of people's savings, and there's people who can't afford to go to the doctor in the richest country in the world. You see why I opened up with what I said at the beginning. He said, she said, drama, distraction, while people's lives are suffering. The fact we've got over 300 million people in this country and we can't provide decent, affordable health coverage to all is utter madness. And the problem is we've got too many shareholders. It's the same with the utilities. Why have we got shareholders in people's health and energy or water? They're essentials in life. They're not there to be made profit on, or shouldn't be. $600-700 billion wasted on the military to ruin people's lives. Not only other countries, but our sons and daughters, that are drugged up to the eyeballs, mind controlled, and all kinds of other fun and games that goes on in the military. To what end? America's been the world police for the last 50, 60 years. Has it improved our lives? All that policing? Why are we working more than most countries in the world and yet appear to have less? These are the things that need to be discussed in hearings, in my opinion, and quickly. Here's some other madness. A farmer, those people who farm, is facing a $2.8 million fine in California by state and federal regulators for planting wheat on his own land. I told you the world's going mad. John Duarte, owner of Duarte Nursery, said the government is retaliating against him for filing a due process claim against him because we work for the Pacific Legal Foundation here in California, and filed a due process, a Fifth Amendment civil rights suit against the government for sending him a cease and desist notice without any form of hearing, or without getting their facts right to begin with. So they retaliated with a $2.8 million lawsuit against him to stop him planting wheat on his own land, farmland as well, in case people were worried about deed restrictions and all that nonsense. This won't come as a surprise. Yet again, people suffering. Yet again, certain demographics of people suffering. A report this week states that certain states with the larger black populations provide less cash assistance to their citizens, according to a recent study published by the Urban Institute. The study found that the majority, 63%, of African Americans live in the 25 states where the lowest proportion of families living in poverty receive welfare benefits. Each year, states receive a federal block grant under Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, a program restricted to low-income families with children. Nationally, only 23 of 100 families living in poverty received assistance. 23% of those in poverty received assistance, which is a sharp decrease from when the program began more than 20 years ago. Yep. But this number doesn't reveal the wide variation among states. In Louisiana, only 4 out of every 100 families living in poverty received assistance in 2014. But in Vermont, that number rises to 78 out of 100. Now, the difference in the amount of money these families are collecting is just as stark. Mississippi, for example, families can only receive $170 per month. But in Alaska, that number jumps to more than 900. Perhaps somebody can let us know why the discrepancy. Could it be because Alaska's not proportionally black? Looks that way. How are we for time? Right, I'm probably going to say this, and then maybe. U.S. President Donald Trump, in response to attacks in Tehran on Wednesday, killing at least 12 people, said he prayed for the victims of attacks claimed by those honest terrorists, Islamic State militants, but added that states that sponsor terrorism risk falling victim to the evil they promote. I suggest Britain and America looks in the mirror at that last comment. Where are we next? See if we can fit one or two of the op-ed pieces in. London. So the fun and games last week. Of course, we've already had London before and Manchester. And yet again, they get sloppy. Now, there's things going on in the Middle East which may play into it. Britain, for those that don't know, was the country that created the State of Israel. It was all set out as far back as 1919 with the Balfour Declaration. It's an empire base, nothing to do with the Bible. It's just an empire base for the Middle East. Now, from what I am hearing, is that Israel's been told they have to accept a two-state resolution. Cue fun and games in London. It's not a coincidence. Now, this latest incident. In March, in London, alleged terrorists drove a vehicle across a London bridge, mounted the pavement, and run people over, and people died. The vehicle carried on, they got out, stabbed some people, and there was a shooting. Then in June, some more terrorists come along, again on a London bridge. Again, they drive the vehicle on the pavement, run people over, some people died. They then carried on, stabbed some people, and then there was a shooting. And people fall for this bullshittery. Have we time travelled back to March? Do people not put two and two together? Then it gets worse. And the reason why I mentioned Israel becomes quite clear. I was watching BBC America as just within the hour of the incident taking place. And the BBC is known in the UK for being pro-Israel. In fact, most of them that are employed in the BBC are Jews. They always have been. So the BBC decides they've got somebody who was at the scene but didn't appear to see much to come on live on air and tell the viewers what took place. The first person that came on, his name was Joshua Land. And I went, really? Joshua Land. And he says, I'm going to hand you over to my friend Christian. I thought, what the F did he think they're playing at? Joshua Land and Christian then went on to denigrate Muslims. So now you know what the incident was set up for. I mean, do people not see this? I twigged straight off with the Joshua Land. I thought, what a strange name. And then thought, well. And then he says, I'm just going to bring my friend Christian in. So the Israelis and the Christians then proceeded to denigrate Muslims, all under the guise of an alleged terror attack. And then it gets worse. The cops in the UK have been caught out before, changing clothes. There was an incident about, probably about 10 years ago, might be less. A load of Brits died in Iraq, and they marched them down a fairly long road in the south of England. And there was people clapping or singing, and there was a load of alleged Muslims, women in burqas, shouting death to the troops. And all kinds of other anti-military slogans on banners. Unfortunately, Sky News had the news helicopter. Well, actually it was fortunate for us. Sky News, which is Fox, was covering the event live, and suddenly the alleged Muslims, in inverted commas, went down a side street, all in their white cloth, and then they took them off, and underneath the white cloth was police uniforms whereupon they got into a police van. So this is what goes on. Except these cops in London last week were caught changing into military garb, and lo and behold, the people that were shot, the alleged terrorists, had the same pants on. Because Muslim terrorists always run around in American camouflage pants, don't they? It just defies belief. Meanwhile, the donation fund is £13 million. $16 million already that they've robbed off the people. Because none of that's going to help anybody. Whether people died again, like Manchester, remains to be seen. But one hopes, going forward, that the general public will start seeing through this staged drama. Because that's all it is. Theatre. Designed to promote fear. So, designed to get you to react. We'll have to go and attack Muslim countries. And yet, if you're asked the average person to name 4 or 5 Muslim countries, they'd probably be stuck after 2. This is the lack of intelligence and knowledge that people have. And it's sad. So that is what's behind the London Fun and Games. It's to do with Israel. Right, we're going to have a couple of songs, and then we'll be back with the intel and a few more things I want to cover, some funny bits, and let's have some bagpipes. Hi all, welcome back to the second hour this evening. Right, we're going to get right back into it. A couple of more pieces before the intel. I'm going to move that from there to the intel portion because it's just changed. But I've mentioned recently about the People's Club, and I'd like to thank everyone that's donated. There's still a small amount of funds available. Obviously, we would like the bigger funds to come in, but with the fun and games ongoing at the moment, it's just completely impossible and delaying not only the foundation, but all the projects, which is going to create a vast amount of new jobs, not enhance existing, create a vast amount of new jobs. Various programs in all walks of life for Americans. Our infrastructure will be drastically updated because it's fell way behind what it was. Roads not getting repaired, no real viable transport infrastructure. Regions of the country who have water shortages, all that will be funded once these clowns stop playing games with people's lives. But I would still, whilst it will be fantastic getting the funds from the trust and the benefits it will bring to people, not only in this country, there's enough funds for every country and funds will go to every country. But I can't think of anything better than we the people fixing our own mess. And not because it's my foundation. It's just because it then provides us that participate in it with a platform for future governance. Now, I've mentioned before about 10% of American adults putting $1 in per week. $4.50 a month. It's not a lot, is it? That would generate $90 million a month from 10% of Americans putting in $1 a week. Now, with that, it's like a lottery win every week. Every time you pay your dollar per week with 10% of Americans, you win every week, because that money will provide jobs initially for people in the Truth, Honour and Integrity group. The goal is to have everyone in the group employed long term. So you then not only involved in the alternative media, you become the change. It's us that started it, and obviously it should be us that benefits from it. And that doesn't mean I will be having lavish salaries, far from it. It's not what it's about. It's about improving our lives. And like I said, I'm grateful for all the members that have chipped in to keep it operational. Most of the cost has gone for the filing, and we've added a few bits, the laptop and the headset and the microphone. That's the only thing outside of the filings and the tax reports and all the other stuff that we had to pay for setting it up. But maybe it's something we can spin out to the whole of the alternative media. If you really want to be involved, all you have to do is put $1 in per week. Maybe convince 10 others to do it, who then convince 10 others to do it, who then convince 10 others to do it. And quite quickly we will get the 10%. 90 million a month will eliminate, or start to eliminate, a lot of our own debts. It will also start to eliminate the problems of people working in jobs they absolutely hate. They'll be working in a job for providing for the betterment for the rest of the people, including themselves. You know, I know people say, oh, it's just another scheme, but it's not. It's $1 a week. And we can fix our own problems. We can get rid of our credit card debt. We can create jobs. We can create organic farming. Whatever you choose that will be beneficial for, not corporations, we the people. If we come up with commodities that can knock out the cabal corporations, then we can fund it. Quite often people have inventions that they can't get off the ground through lack of funding, which is all deliberately designed to keep the competition away from the elites. But if we had funds, we can fund those people. So instead of giving vast amounts of royalties to Walmart or whatever, Sears or whatever other corporation claims their hands on it, they can pay some small dividends back to the foundation, which then pays more credit cards off. or eventually starts paying mortgages off. But even down payments for a house, people who can't afford the closing costs. There's no end to what you can do with the funds. We've always asked, we need some funds. But why should we wait when we can do it ourselves with $1 a week? As it builds up, say it goes from 10% to 20%, then you've got 180 million a month. Basically, then you are creating a country within a country. Except this is being run properly in an honest, fair and transparent manner for the benefit of all the people. Something each listener needs to think on. Like I said, eventually we will get funds from the trust. But while the clowns are operating, they're blocking it. They know what we're doing. Big people are blocking it. Known people are blocking it because they know what its intentions are. And they're terrified of someone rallying the people and saying, you know what, we can operate in a better way than they can by doing it our own way. They're terrified of it. So instead of wasting money on Disney-fying alternative media, buy a People's Club lottery ticket, $1 a week. Because it wins every single time. I'd like to, a couple of people have sent me emails and thanks for that. I meant to read one out, but I forgot to pull it off my phone. Basically, we need a marketing. But it's up to the members of Th&I to go out and market it. Tell them what I've just told you. Once we start getting into the tens of thousands, we can start paying out, and then people will see what we said is valid. We can help people out, people who haven't been to the dentist for God knows how long because they can't afford it. We can help those people out. People who need medical treatment badly but can't afford it. If it passes the committee, we can help those people out. People who want to get their invention off the ground, we can help those people out. People who may want to teach at a higher level than what the education program is doing, we can help those people out. There's no end of things that we can't do. And like I said, it's great that we're going to get funded by the trust, but think of the empowerment of the people doing it. All it takes is 10% of Americans, or even 5% is 5% of Americans is $45 million a month. Again, what can we do with that? What can we do with 10% of that? Even 4.5 million. Instead of wasting money on Powerballs, where the odds are something like 280 million to 1 to win it, you win every single week. Talking about lottery, there was a massive, I don't know whether it was won this week or not, I haven't checked, but there was a massive payout on the Powerball or whatever it's called. And this is something that people really need to get a grasp, and why I brought up the People's Club before it. The person who wins that lottery, whether it's rolled over or not, the estimated payout was 235 million. Here's the kicker. Out of 235 million, 59 million goes in withholding tax. 59 million claimed by the IRS. And then a further 20 million in state taxes. So, the person that wins the lottery, yes, it's fantastic, they won 235 million. But who really wins here? 79 million of it goes out in taxes. People's Club's tax exempt. Think about it. Whilst it would be nice for the person or people who won that lottery, if it was won, because I haven't checked it, it's quite a nice earner for the people who take it all and give nothing back, is it not? 79 million. Imagine what we could do with that. And that's why I brought the People's Club up. You're playing lottery, you can play the People's Club lottery. You win every week. Now, there's been an isolation of Qatar this week. And this is something that should be of concern to people. I've mentioned before about the caliphate. More and more people are now starting to see that as a possibility. But basically, the isolation of Qatar is more to do with Israel again. Oops. And Saudi Arabia. Basically, they're ganging up on Qatar. Because apparently Qatar favours Iran and Hamas. Forgetting that certain John McCain, cough, also funded the same people. Oliver North, cough, cough again. Don't see them boycotting America. Watch that closely. And here's the reason why. This was part of, is now part of the intel, but I'm going to step out of the intel because there's a couple more things I need to cover. But there's the Pentagon and the Deep State last month asked Trump for 50,000 troops for Afghanistan. This was before the NATO meeting, by the way, on the 25th of May. And basically this is for NATO, either to threaten Russia and or to threaten Iran. So of course then the Iran would be flanked. Iraq on one side, Afghanistan on the other. See where it's all leading to? Or what they thought was leading to anyway. So they asked Trump for 50,000 troops. And this has now been confirmed as a NATO-led mission. Now, unfortunately for them, unfortunate for us, like we keep saying, is they have no funding. So no funding equals no war. You understand now why the trust money hasn't been proffered up. And it's all gone quiet now as the Blackwater troops, formerly known as Blackwater, can't make it due to lack of funding also. So that issue has now been shelved for now. Of course, we had further distractions this week. There's a bit of a funny piece. And Kathy Griffin thought it was fun to chop Mr. Trump's head off. Again, certain other people would have been classed as terrorists for doing that, but those in the celeb field seem to get away with these things, apart from slaps on the wrist. So I was doing some research and etymology again, and I came across this, and I thought it's rather fitting. A hippogriff is a legendary creature which is supposedly the offspring of a griffin and a mare, which kind of fits Kathy Griffin, who has spent the last week doing a good impression of David Wilcock and his whale fest with Kerry Cassidy. I mean, this is total distraction. I mentioned it earlier, it's distraction news. We should not be interested whether Kathy Griffin goes back on the TV or not. She's irrelevant anyway. She's not even funny. I mean, she's just not. But this is what people will need to look out for. You're going to see a lot more of this. The celebrity, in inverted commas, parade is going to be ramped up. And I would expect another O.J. Simpson style production to distract the masses in the coming weeks. Watch for it. Basically, they're losing the war on the news propaganda. So now they're creating sideshows like Kathy Griffin and others. It's all crap. And I just hope the people won't fall for all the drama, gossip aspect of the news. Here's another celebrity before I get into the intel. The guilt-tripping celebrities, and Angelina Jolie being one of them, highlighting how poor the children are, etc., etc. A bit like the Vatican highlights how poor the people are around the world, but keeps collecting at the churches off generally poor people and give nothing back. Well, Miss Jolie this week had decided to add sheer hypocrisy of right in your face by paying $24.5 million for a home in Los Angeles. You know, there are many people all over the world who can't afford to spend $24,500 on a home. Never mind $24.5 million. And it's this hypocrisy. You know, they send them onto these adverts and look at all the poor Africans while they're spending $24.5 million on a lavish home when they've already got 3 or 4 dotted all over the world with boats and all kinds of other trinkets. It drives me mad. Right, here we go with the intel. The UN, aka the elders and the Rothschilds, in the past week have been trying to swing the Paris Treaty all over the world, and they are still trying to register all in-ground assets of all the nations. First of all, they tried to register it with the Shanghai Exchange, which got knocked back. And then, unbelievably, the imaginary currency itself, Bitcoin. Can it get more desperate? Now, I kind of covered the London incident, but London is a threefold disruption. The election, to disrupt that, create fear in the populace, and also try to bolster NATO for more funding to counter alleged terrorism. Norway, I don't hear too much about them, except you're going to hear a lot more, or you should be paying attention a lot more of what's going on in Norway. It's becoming the new hotbed for rogue elements. I mentioned in previous shows some of the Rothschilds' stolen heist money is located up there. And it's also the host of a CIA safe house with the Rothschilds' chief warmaker, L.W. Rossier, formerly known as Robert Ferreira. He has been the operations director for Langley 2 and NATO since 1975. Of course, we have other CIA or ex-CIA operating from Norway in the alternative media at the moment. Now you know why I tell people to exercise caution. Canada, on Friday night, and this is probably why Obama is there currently, the clowns tried taking over all of Canada's in-ground resources. And this is part of a broader attack against all Commonwealth countries, which includes America, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, India. They're all Commonwealth countries. And they are also attempting to hijack select African countries. The African Union currently is in the UN this week for the same reason. So they can, or think they can, claim all of Africa's in-ground resources. So far, all attempts have been blocked by the trust people and will continue to be blocked. The reason being is they can throw their bits of paper around all they like, but they have no validity. They've got no authority, and they've got no sovereignty, and they've got no rights to anything, period. Everything now belongs to the people. And I mean that. It's been done. Now, when this rolls out remains to be seen. The old adage of the time factor again. But the money that belongs to the people and the countries will be rolled out. But it just depends how long it takes. You know, there was rumours they were all going to be gone by April, and then more rumours the cabal will be gone by July. But they still roll on, throwing all kinds of paper here, there and everywhere, thinking the royal this and royal that, right honourable this, right dishonourable, more like it. But everything now belongs to the countries and its people. I'll tell you why in a minute. Well, people will remember some of the back shows I mentioned the TRN, World Note, not Treasury Reserve Note. Oh no, not American Treasury Reserve anyway. This was a World Treasury Reserve Note. So it wasn't even going to be our money. Well, that's now being put back on the shelf, because obviously they couldn't get it off the ground, because no one would support it. And what they're doing now, they're calling for special drawing rights again, which is kind of eerily similar to the last story about claiming in-ground assets. The SDR, special drawing rights, is where a designated country, let's use an example, China, will collect the assets or the gold from, for argument's sake, South Korea, which is actually correct, and you're allowed to leverage against that gold and those assets, but the host country keeps hold of them. That's fine in a fair and transparent world, but not with rogue elements in the last acts of desperation, as the chances of getting them back without full-scale war, it doesn't bear thinking about. So that's what they're trying to pull again now, special drawing rights. Now, continuing with the theme of their desperation, this is something that ends the intel on a more positive note, is they're now telling everyone they have to settle on the historical bonds, which means all the countries have to pay up, so they think. Except it's now being proven by the trust people that the countries and the people don't owe anyone anything. Oops. So all these country debts that have been passed on to the people, courtesy of the Federal Reserve Act in 1933, where we were put up as collateral without our knowledge, they're not debts of nations. And it's now been confirmed and ratified that all those debts belong to the families only. And the trust wants the money back. So all the historical bonds, every last one that was issued by families to withdraw from the trust, which they then lent money to the countries, but the assets, including future tax payments of people, were calculated by the trust as an investment on behalf of the nations. An investment, not a debt. And the investment was made by the trust, and the countries were supposed to be paid as dividends, not debt instruments. Now, as the agreement for these bonds was all about investment and dividends, and they decided that they would indebted all of us, the slaves, and nations illegally, and that is where the families, aka the factions, have failed, because they've been called in. So what's the trust been doing? Well, the trust has been making them accountable, for one, by not allowing families to leverage the same assets over again, and also they can't pledge the same asset twice, which is what's been taking place in the past, without first paying the first lien off in its totality. Now, given the Rothschilds owe 2.2 quadrillion, 27 years global GDP, that is, they can't borrow from the trust until it's paid back. love it. So the trust is about to settle things out with regards to the historical bonds and give all nations their respective dividends back and none to the families. Once settlements to nations have been done, everyone can then start to do the real bilateral business without the stranglehold of debts placed upon them by certain families. We stand at the crossroads. Our hearts have been sinking low, but we're about to get a voice. Hi all and welcome back. For those who were not paying attention, yes you Holly, here's a brief recap of the intel. The elders and the Rothschilds are trying to push the Paris Treaty all over the world. It will fail. They're trying to register all in-ground assets of all nations. They tried to take over all of Canada's last Friday, which was blocked as part of a broad attack against all Commonwealth countries, and they're also attempting to hijack select African countries as well, all trying to fund themselves for their programs which they can't get operational, be it their Million Man Army, their smashing of the Middle East, which is one of their plans, and firing whatever at Russia and North Korea. None of it's happened, and it's unlikely to either. We have many alliances now all over the world who are tired of the bullshittery, tired of being co-joined at the hip with the elites. They're tired of being lied to also. If you think we've been lied to, they've been lied to more. I know that's hard to believe, but they all think they know stuff, except they don't have a need to know. And so they're finding out from our team as well what's been going on. And they realise that they've been duped just as much as we have, and many are stepping down and stepping out. The figure I was given a number of months ago was 63 million have stepped down. Now, what they've tried foisting onto the countries, including America, the alleged 19 trillion debt, which is nothing to do with America and nothing to do with the people, period. And that's now been proven, and the trust people have responded to the families calling in the historical bonds and telling countries and all and sundry to pay it back, except it's them that owe it, all of it. It's not the debt of nations, but the debt belongs to the families, which owes it all to the trust. And the trust will be available for the people and the countries once these clowns have been nullified. So what took place is all the historical bonds, every last one of them, were issued by the families from a withdrawal out of the trust. Remember that Draco used to own this trust at one point. And the families then lent the people's money, which is what the trust is, Make no mistake about that. It's the people that create the wealth, not the elites. They just take. It's hundreds, if not thousands of years of sweat, toil and our labour that's created that trust. They just steal from it. And we're being allowed to get away with it, but no more. So they were then lending money to countries, including America, allegedly lending, except the assets, including all future tax payments of the people, were calculated by the trust as an investment on behalf of the nations, not a debt instrument. So the investment was made, and the countries were supposed to be paid back as dividends, not debt. And so as the agreement was all about investment and dividends, and they in turn indebted all us, the slaves, and nations illegally, that was their downfall. The families, aka the factions, have failed because the trust people have called them in. So what has the trust done? Well, they've made them accountable, for one, by not allowing families to leverage the same assets over and over again, and also not allowing them to pledge the same asset twice. They can pledge an asset for a second time, but they've got to pay the first lien off in total. I mentioned before, the Rothschilds' lien is 2.2 quadrillion, which is 27 years of global GDP. So the trust is about to settle things out with regards to the historical bonds, and will give all nations their respective dividends back, and none to the families. And once the settlements to the nations have been done, we can expect this, expecting this to happen in the near future, not the distant. Everyone then, all the countries then, can start to do the real bilateral business without the stranglehold of debts being placed on us by the families. That is what the people connected to this show have been doing. I know some people get edgy with them because they haven't provided the funds for the foundation, but there's bigger things going on. That's just one aspect. They're involved in a total of 479 aspects of global issues. They're trying to correct all of them. It can't be done overnight, particularly with the threat of violence being held over those in the front line. We've reported in previous shows they've been shot at. UN troops trying to abduct them. They don't like it like spoilt little kids. You played the game their way, or they take the ball away. Except they haven't got a ball anymore because we took it off them. So they just have a hissy fit and play games. And that's all they're doing at the moment, playing games. No one's listening to them, apart from a few clowns in the US Inc. military. Because they still think they're going to pull off their RV. Attempt 1010 takes place over the weekend. Come Monday, They'll probably attempt 1011, which will also fail. Like I said, the world's in utter madness at the moment. There's a lot going on that doesn't meet the eye at the moment. I can't report a lot of things, but for those that can read between the lines in the mainstream media and some of the alternative media, there's enough going on that will keep you going, keep the fight going. Right, where are we going next? I've covered all the intel. One last thing. No, two last things I'm going to mention. The New Age movement has kind of sidetracked many. Ascended Masters, channeling, dear ones and all that rubbish. And then the term consciousness came into people's attention. What is consciousness? Can people explain it? Well, science can't. They think that consciousness comes from the physical. It doesn't. It comes from the higher planes. That your physical tether to those planes, whatever evolutionary level you're at, is where it comes from. That's why they can't explain it in the physical. It's also where disease comes from. Cancer comes from the lower astral. Manifests into the physical due to collapses or breakages in the PSI field, the aura, force field around each and every living, and I mean living, entity on this planet. So they can tell you that certain lifestyles create this and create that. It doesn't. It's the vampiric entities that create a lot of the dis-ease. And this is one of the reasons we at Cosmic Voice, when I was host over there, banned channeling. Most people, and I mean most, don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're interacting with. And this is where the holes in the psi field come from. People active in the astral level. Yes, you may be thinking that you're speaking to a lost loved one, etc. Or certain ones think they're speaking to Source. Anyone who tells you they're speaking to Source is talking BS or has been duped. There is no speaking to Source. You can connect as you are part of Source, but you're not going up there and having a chat. What you're likely chatting to is the vampiric entities operating in the lower astral. In fact, 90% with their clever tech. And so some people still like the channeling, but I'm still going to warn people. You really have no idea what you're dealing with when you open yourself up. This is why I warned, and we had that letter from one of the members warning of opening yourself up with psychedelic drugs, be it mushrooms or whatever other names they have for it, and ayahuasca. Alcohol does the same. That's why they call it spirits. We have to be very careful, more so now as the astral layer is collapsing. The Archon influence is collapsing. So consciousness comes from the higher planes. And there's something, a lot of chat about the Vedic texts, all coming from India, except it never. The Vedic texts was done 5,000 years ago by the Slav Aryan people who travelled to India and passed their information on to the peoples of India, who then took it up for themselves, except they've distorted it. Because according to Hindu scriptures and the way they teach in the East, life ends here, except it doesn't. They tell you that the nirvana is completing the 7 earthly cycles, except it's not. Once you've completed the 7 earthly cycles, physical, etheric, astral and the 4 mental planes, you go on to the cosmic level. There's a universal level, a meta-universal level, many levels. And it's all about you going back to being the creator being you were created for. Except there was a lot of creator beings trapped in this construct system. And the teachings of the East is about limitation. The real teachings came from the Slav Aryans and the Rus and the White Volk. I may do a show that covers this more when I get time. I keep saying that, but time's not on my side at the moment. So the Vedic text came from the Slav Aryan people. Interesting name, Aryan, spelt the same as the Nazis. Do you think that name came up by chance? So that name would be hated for the future because the Germans were propagating the Aryan race, which then becomes discredited. Did the Germans have previous which was discredited? Yes, the swastika, the ancient sun symbol that's in virtually every culture all over the planet. They all draw the same thing. So the SS took that and inverted it. Is it beyond the realms that they used the knowledge of the Aryan peoples and inverted that as well and turned it into a race issue? See how things work, how they invert everything. It's like the Illuminati. They inverted that. Freemasonry, they inverted that. Something to think on. Right, let's get into some questions. What do you and your insiders say about the possibility of economic chaos coming within a month or two? First off, as I understand it, America will not be allowed to crash. And the reason I say America and not the world is America is the centre for the off-world trade. They won't allow America to crash. Personally, I would like to see all off-world trade cancelled until we get an understanding of what they're trading and what they're trading with and in what type of currencies, because we're not seeing any benefits from it. As it seems to me, we're paying for all these materials and our labour, and certain elements within the military are either being funded off ledger accounts, it's going to black budgets, or they're being paid in response with advanced technology that's being denied to the people. Either way, it has to be stopped. Now, the transatlantic treaty and the Pacific treaty is both related to off-world trading and why they were cancelled. Now, as regards to an economic chaos, I've been told we're okay up until September the 30th. After that, all bets are off. Now, hopefully between now and then, a number of things will have been dealt with. A number of things will have been implemented, and a number of things corrected, and a number of things released to make that possibility an impossibility. What's to keep the crooks from stealing all the money donated to the People's Club? Well, at the moment there's not a lot in it, but something is in the pipeline that may strengthen it. Would you consider Scientology to be an Illuminati cult? I don't know exactly what takes place inside their walls, but according to the information that are being leaked to the outside world about them, they seem to use some of the methods mentioned in the Illuminati special shows. Yes, that's my understanding also. It is a cult. It's got rather bad elements in it. There's pedophilia in it again. It's the same people. Bearing in mind, Bill Ryan used to be, or still is, in Scientology. Oops. Is it true, possible, that the sky we see and all its celestial objects are actually a giant hyper-resolution LD screen of sorts? If so, what's the true reality if we are indeed in a cosmic Truman Show? Does the physical universe actually exist? Yes, it does exist. As I understand things, we're in a holographic reality, like a giant Sims game. Whether that's 100% correct, I don't know, but that's what I'm being led to believe, given the evidence from various sources that we're stuck in some kind of system. There was a thing, I can't remember the name offhand, about NASA. They allegedly photographed a planet with a structure around it. Maybe that's us. Thomas, are they still trying to get Hillary in? Yes. She's given 40 different excuses to why she didn't get to be president. Well, one of the hold-ups to the funds being released as it stands now, because they are involved in a small way, is the Chinese elders, in inverted commas. They have some portion of the funds, as I get it, and they're refusing to release it unless Hillary is installed as president. Make of that what you will. Is the economy imploding, and if so, how should we prepare? The economy imploded 2008. It's never come out of it. There's only their bogus stock market that's exploding. In reality, it's all false paper trails. The illusion of things are going well, when you look at people's 102 million adult Americans with no job. So you say a third of the American population are children, so you've roughly got 200 million American adults. That means 51% of American adults are out of work. And they tell us things are going well. Not for us, it ain't. And basically what they're doing, and they've been doing it over a long period of time, which is why you should never criticise people on benefits, because it's a program, and it's a deliberate program. Bear in mind, they've got data banks on all of us now. You know, all our habits, you know, what we buy, you know, our interests, the hobbies, etc, etc, etc. That's basically what Facebook was about. Data mining. Every credit card expense goes into your data bank. What you buy, where you bought it from. Every one of them. So they can target you with certain adverts. So these people know. So they can target certain people to not have jobs, or certain groups of people to not have jobs. Eventually, we're all going to end up, unless things change, we're all going to end up on benefits. Because if they achieve what they're setting out to achieve, where they replace us with robots, you've suddenly got 90% of the people with no jobs and no money. That's not going to end well, is it? So they're slowly but surely taking people out of the market. $102 million American adults with no job. And people still tell us this is the best country and the richest. The likes of the Gateses and the Buffetts of this world, yeah. Because they just rape this country left, right and centre. So the economy imploded 9 years ago, and it's never improved. And the way they act, it never will. But the way we act, and have acted, it will turn around. Preferably sooner rather than later. Thomas just saw a video about eliminating coffins by being buried as food to grow a tree, and that made me wonder, is this method just one more way to keep us from evolving, as in our etheric astral body cannot leave our physical body, similar to the entrapment of the soul spirit in concrete tombs? Besides mummification, standard burial practices removing vital organs in concrete, are there other methods which are delayed? We are delayed on returning to source. Well, we were delayed permanent by being stuck in this system and its reincarnation soul trap loops. Well, it's my understanding and belief that those soul traps were ended in 2014. So more and more are breaking through the barrier. It creates holes in the field and they can't keep patching it up. And as the collective consciousness rises, it creates bigger holes. And what really is taking place currently is the people are rising. Unfortunately, the alternative media over the last few months has decided, in my opinion anyway, to go sideways. In essence, the alternative media mirrors the factions, because it's rogues taking rogues out. You know, Stephen Greer, of all people, Mr. CIA agent of 1970s, deciding that Corey Good's not good. It's important we get back on the path and ignore the side streets. Anyway, kind of went off track there. Where are we? Involving concrete tombs, as I understood it, are nothing to do with what you think it is. Sarcophagus means flesh eating. So the eliminating coffins and being buried as food is fine for it in essence, but our bodies are riddled with pharmaceutical poisons. That to me would be the equivalent of Monsanto. The best way for us to return quicker is cremation, as it takes 1 year after all the soft tissue is gone out of the vessel before the spirit leaves the body finally, and then ascends to its evolutionary level, what the physical vessel achieved during its lifetime. It spends a certain amount of time there and then goes back in at the level. Of course, they were getting people to kill each other, and they've been getting us to kill each other for many thousands of years, creating karma, which then drops us down a level. So most people will reach the first mental level. Few get to 2, 3 and 4. Of course, if you've had karma, you go into the astral layer, and if you survive that, you then come back into a body which is damaged. It's all very well saying it's basically manure for trees. What people really need to, I think Clive de Carlo would probably be the best to ask of what would be the breakdown of bodies. We're just riddled with pharmaceutical drugs and all kinds of other poisons, fluoride, etc., etc. I don't think that's going to be helpful to trees. Maybe there's a way of cleansing it, who knows. But technically it could be another trap, as the questioner asked. Black-eyed children, any idea what they are? Well, in essence, for an overview, they're like the children's version of Men in Black. They're interdimensional Archon-like beings, and they have to ask people's permission to enter their field. They do need consent. If you ever come across these entities, do not give them any consent. Get as far away from those entities as possible. They're not good. They're walk-ins and possessions, takeovers. You allow them into your life, you're going to have a hard job getting rid of them. So they use hypnosis and mind control, and in the majority of cases, after consent is given, the person gets very sick. Why? Because the disease has entered the vessel, and the person either gets very sick, or actually there's a lot of cases of people dying after meeting these beings. And they produce fear, which is archontic. Stay as far away as possible. Who or what is currently holding up this financial system and planning to bring it down? Holding it up is a good way to put it, because it's basically on a infinitely stretching band-aid at the moment, because there's in essence it should have already collapsed. It's got no asset based to it. The debt that's recorded, the interest is more than the GDP. So you can never get out of it. So they're just doing clever accounting by saying the countries owe them debts like the 19 trillion. I think it's 9 trillion back in the UK. They're not our debts, that's theirs. And very soon they're going to be called in, and the country's debt will be wiped out, and the dividends that are owed on those investment instruments, not debt instruments, will be returned to all the countries. Who's planning to bring it down? Some of the elites, not all of them. Some factions want it crashed and some don't. So there's part of that game playing out as well. Do you see the character of Raymond Reddington in the blacklist as being Trump? It could be, providing the people around him build the platform strong enough. Certain elements, I mentioned this probably 4 or 5 months ago, that the blacklist in essence was playing out future events. They know what's coming and they're doing their utmost to stop it, but the tide has long since turned against them, and the only thing that keeps them in place is the fear of the people. Like I said at the end of the last show, everything you ever wanted is on the other side of fear. The military feared this Rothschilds, or this individual fears this country. Once that fear ends, and this is why it's important for empowering the people, and that's why I think if we ever got the foundation up and running, the empowerment that people would get of helping each other would elevate this country and every other country beyond all reason. And the idea of ever needing elites or people to look after us ever again will seem absurd. But until we step into that void, because there is a void, the cabal are not even 50% as strong as they were 5 years ago. The whole structure's collapsed. Draco, parents, covens. You're going to hear more about covens, particularly to do with Gaiam TV. Oops. And on down to the Illuminati, as we know, and they're all infighting. Why? Because they've got no leader. They're incapable of leading, but those people are all followers. You got the Rothschilds thinking they're the leader of everything, including the intergalactic. If I get permission, I'll read the document out written by one of the Rothschilds. You'll piss yourself laughing, as I did. I've never seen so many titles in one sentence in all my life, and all of it complete and utter bullshittery of the highest order. So yes, Trump can be Reddington, but the people around him have to cut off the supply to the 39 layers of secrecy operating above Mr. Trump currently. The head of that snake has to be cut off, and I mean cut off, to allow Trump to then operate on a correct level. Now, some of the things he's done is good, some of the things he's done is not good, because that platform is not secure enough. He's got to be in bed with some of the factions, unless he wants to lose his head. That's why it's important that platform is provided. As things are ramping up big time at the moment here in the UK, I'm starting to get a feel for who are going to be causing the most threat as far as civilians go. Here I'm seeing the EDL and others appealing to the average moron. The EDL, for American viewers, is English Defence League, I think, if memory serves me correctly, which is basically white power, a white power Nazi group, although in reality it's nothing to do with the Nazis, but as I mentioned earlier, but it's basically a white power group. And the questioner says, I imagine gangs in the US, but what are your thoughts on who will be the ones to look out for on a personal level going forward? I think it's important we address this just to be prepared. We're maybe going to have a lot of sheeple freaking out, as you rightly warned us enough in past times. And it'll be aimed more at those in and around cities, obviously. Who to be aware of? I wouldn't say there's a particular group. It's just the same clowns masquerading as politicians and cops and justices. The gang issue is being dealt with very, very quietly, particularly in the US. I think they arrested 17 of the mafia this week. Well, they've arrested a lot of the Mexican gangs. Now, bear in mind, they employed those Mexican gangs out of funds from the American people via Langley again. Most of the gangs around the world are employed by the elites. The Italian mafia was set up by the Vatican Church, and the mafia funnels funds to the church. And then you've got all the drug gang people. Of course, there's a show on the TV this month, I think it's starting 18th of June, where it basically tells you the CIA run the drugs. Again, that's disclosure. I can't remember off the top of your head what that show is, but the trailer for it tells you CIA runs the drugs. They always have. Colombia, Grenada, Vietnam, Afghanistan. The list goes on and on and on. They pay off the local gangs to do the dirty work. Except funds got tighter, because they can't steal from the trust anymore. So they started taking the gangs out. Cut out the middlemen. Why do you think they're making pot legal in the US? Where do you think the money's going? Because they're the only ones that's got it. I know some people say, oh well, such and such as companies. Yes, some of that money will still go back to the same criminals. So gangs are being shut down because, and a bit like the mercenaries, are also being shut down because of a lack of funding. But basically they bit off way more than they can chew. It's like the Ouroboros. It's just eating itself. So there's no real one gang. A lot of the gangs are being shut down because they can no longer afford to do them, and they'd sooner remove the middlemen, i.e. take them out, which is why the Mexican shootings have been increasing left, right and centre, courtesy of Mr. Holder, Eric Holder, Fast and Furious. That's what that was all about. Give the Mexicans all the guns so they start shooting each other, so then they have less to pay. Less middleman. When there's no middleman, they cream the whole lot. That's what's going on. Well, I didn't really answer that question, but perhaps the way you wanted it, but that's the way I see things. A lot of the gangs are collapsing in on themselves because the elites can no longer fund them. Are the old trees the elders of the earth? You know, we did have proper elders. In fact, there's some still here. I think the last count there was 7 of the original elders still alive. From all accounts, they're 150,000 years old. The trees hold the Akashic. Before we got trapped in this loop system, everyone was given a choice. Like the 100 series, humanity chose to take the pill. No pain, no trauma. The trees chose, and no memory. The trees chose to keep theirs. So if you're in tune with trees, you're in tune with the Akashic. Each tree has its own Akashic, like each human being has its own Akashic. So it's the planet and the being, planetary being. When people are telling you to pay X hundred of dollars to access the Akashic, you ask that person which one. More bullshittery. Where are we? What kind of currency is used for off-world trade? Good question. Doesn't appear any, does it? Like I explained earlier, but where's all the money coming in for the trade going out? What ledger is that on? Clearly it's not, is it? So it doesn't really matter what currency is being used. None of it's going for the benefits of the people. Is Ethereum used? No. What products are we importing off-world? Oh. At best, stuff that we make. You see, despite all their technology, they're not as creative as we are. We can advance without interference more in 120 years than they can advance in 120,000. Why? Because we're creators. Now the worst thing that's being traded is the people. Some of them are being used as slaves. Some of them are being used for off-world wars, and some of them are being used in processing plants. That shit has to stop. And I don't care which council does it, it has to stop. Jenny asked the same question, what are we exporting? Well, mostly it's us, believe it or not. Could you touch upon what you know about the Illuminati celebs, people that are secretly transgenders? How common is this as far as you know? What's it all about? What is worse than worshipping false Hollywood idols? Well, what about false Hollywood idols lying about their true gender? I'm not too sure that all that has been mentioned are all that way. It may be a shock to some, but It's just some people will, who I know it's not comfortable in the South because of the Bible bashes, as they're called by many people, and it's promoting the gay agenda, which goes against God. But there are some cases where the chromosomes get mixed up, and those people feel trapped in their own body. Well, unfortunately, it's become almost an agenda, a mode of operation to subvert the family. And this is largely what it's all about. It's another breakdown of the family role model, male, female, 2 kids. Well, if you are only allowed 1 child and you have a girl, then there's your family name line gone. It's the female will take the husband's name. So a lot of Chinese girls were being killed at birth because the Chinese families wanted to keep the name going and only wanted boys. So this then led to an imbalance in society where in China and certain other Asian countries there was too many males and not enough females. So then they pushed the transgender. And that's largely where that started, known as the lady boys. And then it populated what appears to be right round the world now, and then became commonplace. Anyone who's been to Las Vegas, it's riddled with them. Some of them you wouldn't even know what they were until something fell out of their pants. You know, each to their own at the end of the day. But it's all about breaking down the family role model. Of course, we've just had a first man and a first lady, allegedly a first man. It wasn't Obama. Where are we for time? Nearly up. Will the timeline wars result in a single timeline with everyone being in the same place? That can't happen. Timelines merging can't happen. It will destroy one or the other. For those of you who watch Fringe will understand what I mean by that. It's impossible. Those of you who listen to the Final Appeal to Mankind show, the Humanity Unplugged shows, it explain the science behind it. And Fringe covers the 2 worlds, one with a Nazi timeline and one we've got here now. But some of the clowns are trying to merge the timelines, which would wipe this reality or false reality out, and that other timeline Germany won the war, which they did anyway. And it's all very dictatorial. I'm trying to remember the girl's name. The blonde girl in Fringe. That person's real. It's based on a true story. Now some of us who have managed to cross the two timelines know what I'm talking about. You will meet yourself. But there won't be two timelines. One destroys the other. Thinking about the Earth being forced into a portal, why would the clowns do that? Where would we go? Well, it blocks any frequency waves that enhance the planet and its planetary being, and send us on a darker path into another system where we can be looped again. If failed. Wouldn't it be the end of all earthly life being taken away from our sun? What if the thing in the sky is not our sun? Cliff High claims we're heading for an ice age. If all the free energy is available, will it be rolled out in the near future to help this situation? The Russians told the world in 1959 we're heading for an ice age. So greenhouse gases stops that. Do humans have Nephilim genetics? And are they still alive on Earth? Partially, and yes. I think that's it. Can you tell us something about the red light flashing in the White House the other day? No, I don't know nothing about that. Apologies for that. Right, I think that's just about it for this week. What can you take from this week? Try to stay within yourself. Be careful where your energy goes. Don't lose sight of who and what you are. Don't let others put you in fear. Watch for the celebrity fun and games. Watch for potential O.J. Simpson style theatre. We're on guard for certain other events, like the London incidents. Pay close attention when it happens, as you'll be able to see through the lies. And give thanks to all the people around the world, including the trust people, who are working so hard and diligently in very trying and testing ways of living to bring us a brighter future. Again, think about how you can help the People's Club get off the ground. You can get 10 people to put $1 in each week and they can get 10 people, we can quickly start helping our own situation and creating our own jobs. That's what it's about. We can campaign and protest all you like, but if we let them carry on with what they're doing while we create better lives for ourselves, what does the most damage? To all the living souls, we were born, not manufactured. We did not choose. We are chosen. Those who understand need no explanation. Those who don't understand don't matter. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.